What is up, everybody? Welcome to Heads Up Play, episode 50. We are on 50 episodes. We started about a year in October. So, big milestone today on the show. We are here to talk about also another big milestone. Week one of college football is back, baby.
We're back.
We're back. It's so back. Well, let's get into it with episode 50 of Heads Up Play.
Episode 50, week one of college football, came to not necessarily a close yet. We still got one more tonight. Boston College, FSU. We'll really see how FSU is as a team tonight, I think, when they play their first home game against Boston College. And you and I's favorite offensive coordinator of all time at Alabama, Bill O'Brien.
He's out. He's back. And then, was going to be Alabama's coach Mike Norvell. He's back.
Yeah, I mean, that's who everybody wanted was Mike Norvell. I mean, 100%. But it was a fun weekend. I mean, it was just so good to have football back. We're getting the NFL back this week. We'll talk a little bit about that on our next episode. But this is all college football, baby. And it started off, we won't talk too much about the Thursday night games or the Friday night games because there really wasn't much, and we already kind of talked about Colorado, North Dakota State.
What I'm going to talk about on Thursday about the Thursday night games, Travis Hunter is must-see TV.
He is. He would be 100% a Heisman candidate on just about any other Power 5 team, I would say.
Travis Hunter, I feel like when you throw to him in the end zone, he's going to come down with it.
Yeah. And he is the best player on the field against anybody, just about anybody. But Saturday, that's when we got our real action. Starting off in Atlanta, Clemson Tigers versus the Georgia Bulldogs. Big matchup. I bet that Clemson would cover the spread against Georgia. I thought that this would be a closer game. I thought Georgia would certainly win, but I thought Clemson would maybe go out, keep it a good defensive team. I was like, maybe Dabo has finally heard some things. Maybe he is prepared for this. And that really seemed to be the case in the first half when it ended, I believe, 3-3. Clemson's defense was on it, man. They were coming after Carson Beck.
I mean,
but then in the second half,
it looked like Georgia had no weapons because, they lost everybody. I was like, oh, my gosh. I remember telling you in the car, like, is Georgia's cooked? Like, they have no offensive weapons. And then, how do I say this? Nick Saban 2.0 did what he did that Nick Saban would do. Saban lit into their asses at halftime, and my God, that was such – I've never seen an Alabama performance more in my life than that from Georgia.
Yeah, they definitely showed who the better team was in that game, 100%. I mean, there's really not much more that you can talk about. Malachi Starks had a really big interception. Carson Beck had a good day throwing the ball, especially in the second half. But really the story is not so much how good Georgia was because we knew that they were going to be really good. It's Clemson and this offense that Garrett Riley in year two under him, we thought he would be fantastic. He's the brother of Lincoln Riley. He took TCU to a national championship.
Coordinator 2 years ago.
Exactly. He took TCU to a national championship game. It kind of looked like the TCU versus Georgia game 2 years ago, did it not?
Yeah, it got ugly. It got ugly. Clemson's going to Clemson. I think Clemson, they're back to their grounds. Clemson's never really been, this top-notch program.
Aside from that, 7-year run, in the 2010s.
I think they're back to earth. They're back to being Clemson.
Question is, if this is a season similar to last season, if this is another 8-4 or even a 7-5, I would even go as far to say like a 9-3 season, could they part ways? I think they should, but could they?
That was my hot take of the year, that Dabo, I don't think they'll part ways, but I think Dabo will leave.
I do think that's what's going to have to happen. He is going to – look, a program like Clemson can't just up and fire their greatest coach of all time. You can't do that. they would have to mutually part ways, and then go forward from there. And then Clemson fans would be wishing 4 years later, wish we would have kept Dabo, right? Because then they'll hire somebody else who won't be as good. Clemson will never get back to that level. Who knows? Maybe they could, but
there's no way Clemson's ever going to get back to that level.
No. So utter shellacking by Georgia. Any last thoughts on that game?
So that was a big win for Georgia. It kind of proved to Georgia, look, we have not let last year kind of disperse. They have beat the shit out of the ACC in the last 2 games.
Yeah, they have. All non-conference, to be honest.
The last 2 ACC games they've played against, Florida State, Clemson, they've only allowed, 6 points? Low. 6 points.
6 points. Yeah, destroyed them. I thought that Georgia might take a step back on defense. We kind of talked about that on the last episode where we were doing our predictions. And I still think that might be the case because, Clemson's offense just wasn't there. Whatsoever. Cade Klubnik just isn't a great quarterback whatsoever. They really couldn't get much of a run game going. But the defense did what they needed to do, held them to 3 points. But let's move into what was a game that took forever to end.
Yes.
Penn State, West Virginia in Morgantown. A lot of people thought this might be a closer game. West Virginia has a really good run game. I didn't watch much of this game because that's when we kind of got into Tuscaloosa. We'll talk about that later. Is Penn State good? Could they compete? No. I think Penn State, with the schedule they have, could make it to a Big Ten championship. Maybe not necessarily win it. I think that they could make it there. They've got a new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, and this offense under Drew Aller looked better in the bit that I saw than last season.
I'm not a fan of Penn State. I think I've stated many times, I think Penn State are the biggest choke artist in college football. James Franklin, he cannot get the job done. He cannot win the big game. I'm just not a fan of Penn State. I don't think they can do it. I just don't.
It'll have to be seen for the rest of the year. Let's take a look at their schedule right now, if I can get it pulled up. Let's see, play-by-play, box score.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Bowling Green, 2-0.
That's a win.
Kansas, 3-0. Illinois, 4-0. UCLA, 5-0. At USC.
We'll talk about USC. I don't know much about USC right now after last night.
At Wisconsin. Ohio State at Penn State. Washington at Penn State. Penn State at Purdue. Minnesota at Minnesota. And then Maryland at Penn State.
I'd say your biggest games right there, your biggest question marks are USC and Ohio State.
And Washington. You got to play.
If Washington is anywhere as good as they were last year under Jed Fish.
I think they'll lose to either USC or Ohio State.
I think so too. But all right, yeah. So Penn State gets the job done, at least, against Neil Brown and West Virginia.
How about we haven't mentioned this game? SEC powerhouse Vanderbilt with probably the biggest upset of the day against your ACC preseason champs.
Hey, still 0-0, still undefeated in the ACC.
Still 0-0, but the Virginia Tech Hokies, it was bad against the Commodores. Lost in overtime to Vanderbilt. Is Vanderbilt back? They were only projected by Vegas to have 2.5 wins this year, and they would have got one of them.
So, asking if Vanderbilt is back is implying that Vanderbilt was ever good. Which, hey, under James Franklin, they did have back-to-back 9-win seasons or something like that. But this was a poor game by the Virginia Tech defense. Kyron Drones had a pretty good day, 22 of 33, 322 yards. Did have an interception, but man, Diego Pavia, the transfer quarterback from New Mexico State to Vanderbilt, that guy is legit. He can spin it now. 190 yards, 12 of 16, 2 tutties. Good day for Diego.
He's a baller. He was the, if you all remember, he was the one that beat Auburn last year at New Mexico State. Also, Vanderbilt's offensive coordinator is New Mexico State's offensive coordinator from last year. I'm telling you, this team is built for the SEC.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So I look. Week 1, it's still very early to like make, too big of a deal on some teams like that, especially when my Virginia Tech pick was kind of a wild card. And now that does worry me for Virginia Tech because their schedule isn't much harder than Virginia Tech. I mean, we can look at their schedule right now. Let me get it pulled up.
Who are we looking at?
Virginia Tech's schedule. So they start off with Vandy. Then you got Marshall, Old Dominion, Rutgers. You got Miami. At Miami, that's likely a loss. Stanford, Boston College, Virginia Tech, that could be a loss. Syracuse, Clemson, that could be a loss. Duke and Virginia.
I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna lose to Syracuse.
Okay. Syracuse 1-0.
I already predict that to happen. CJ, you gotta remember they got what's the name? Dude from Ohio State now is the quarterback, and they put up some points. And did you see in the press conference the head coach Dino Barbers? Well, no, that's not Dino. Dino's not the coach anymore. I forgot what the new head coach's name is. But he got down and said, "Hey, I need to send a bottle of champagne to Ryan Day for giving us a call. He's that good."
I didn't see that. Yeah, I always wonder if Will Howard was much of an upgrade from Kyle McCord. I would think he is an upgrade, but I don't know if he's that much of an upgrade. Definitely at least passing the ball. So moving on a little bit further to some of the other big games. We thought this game might be a little close, and I don't need to talk too much on it because I didn't really look at it very much. Thought maybe we would get a little better FCS action from defending FCS champ South Dakota State. No, Oregon State takes care of business. Ollie Gordon 44-20 over the Jackrabbits.
Are you talking about Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State 44-20 over South Dakota State. Ohio State takes care of business against Akron 52-6. Texas slaughters Colorado State 52-0.
Yeah, Tennessee beat Chattanooga 69.
Tennessee destroyed Nico. Nico might be the best quarterback in the SEC. But who could be the best quarterback in the ACC? First year, let's talk about it. Here in the swamp, I was not here. Oh, boy.
Cam Ward.
I picked Florida to cover. You did too? Thought the swamp might be too much for Cam Ward? It sure wasn't. It sure was not. Miami was ready for that game, and Florida was run off of the field in their own stadium.
So, last year the theme was every week we asked, when does Jimbo get fired? Now it's, when does Billy Napier I feel like there's going to be a new coach every year. This year's Billy Napier. When does Billy Napier get fired? That is the question I'm going to ask you week 1.
I'm going to tell you right now, the real stretch for Florida, that real tough stretch, pretty much starts against Tennessee. That is October 12th. From then on, your easiest game is Kentucky. So from here on, you got Samford this coming week. That should be an easy win. Should be, but also Samford scored like 70 points on them like 5 years ago or something like that. Texas A&M comes to town. Unfortunately, you're going to be not favored in that game. Mississippi State, I'm looking now. I believe I saw this morning, Mississippi State has like a 60% chance to win that game at home.
And it's an 11 o'clock game for Mississippi State. I don't know what it is. That's a tough place to play at a noon kickoff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Mississippi State currently sitting per ESPN 59.9% chance to beat Florida. UCF currently sitting with a 57.6% chance to beat Florida. That game is in the swamp. If UCF beats Florida, I would be shocked if they keep Billy around to ride out the rest of that season. You have to fire him at least after that game. Because if you're losing to Mississippi State and UCF, you're not beating anybody else.
I don't see any game besides Samford this year I can see myself saying positively Florida's going to win that game.
The only one that I can think is maybe maybe Mississippi State.
Well, I'm saying even without a doubt.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like there's a doubt in my mind, Mississippi State. There's not a doubt that.
No, yeah, I believe that Florida will be the underdog in every game going forward, aside from Samford. Is that not insane to say for what should be one of the top programs in the SEC?
You stick with Graham Mertz, and we both kind of mentioned like we're a little shocked they did. He only threw for 94 yards.
Yeah, 11 for 20, 94 yards. Utterly, and Graham Mertz, this was a guy who had a pretty good year last season, at least exceeded expectations. They brought DJ Lagway in late in the game. The crowd went crazy for it, supposedly. We were in the Alabama and Bryant-Denny Stadium by then. And look, this is a Miami team that they might just be legit. I do believe that I can change after week 1, my ACC champion now has to be Miami with the way they played. And I don't care how good the Florida team is. It's still the Swamp. To go in there and beat them up 41-17 in the Swamp, that says a lot.
No.
This Miami team, I don't want to fully say that Miami is back whatsoever, right? It's week 1. But this is looking like a playoff team.
No, it is. They look tough.
Cam Ward certainly will be talked about as in the Heisman for the next few weeks because he put up some great numbers. The Swamp did not rock him whatsoever.
If I have to end it, if the Heisman had to be today, he's winning the Heisman.
Yeah, I would say he put up the best performance of week 1.
Yeah, but Jackson Dart he put up 76 on Furman.
Furman.
Well, hell, man.
I'm with you 100%. Cam Ward, if the Heisman was given out today, give it to him. But for Florida, you can't keep Billy Napier around. There's really not much more that you can say. I mean, the offensive – there were nothing that was bad last season. The horrific defense and horrific offensive line were not fixed. They were not fixed. And this was a team where Billy Napier thought they were going to be better. He himself thought that they had fixed some of the problems that they had last season. And when that's not actually the case, that ain't good. That is not good.
Taking L's on the field and off the field. I don't know if you saw the press conference. He had an Aquafina bottle that he was trying to open for 10 minutes. He can't even open a bottle right now, a water bottle. Right? I mean, I'm telling you, the man is so mentally messed up right now. I think he's so.
I almost feel sorry for him. Like you kind of have to feel sorry for him.
And I used to tell you all the time, I thought he was one of my favorite Saban disciples. I thought he was going to be a hell of a coach. I think the fact he went somewhere too high, first job in the Power 5, in my opinion.
Jumping from Louisiana, Lafayette, and I know they're called just Louisiana now, but jumping from Louisiana, where he did coach fantastic, had a great record there, won Sun Belt championships, to Florida. That's just too big of a jump. You're right.
That's too big, way too big of a jump.
If your first Power 5 job should not be one of the caliber of Florida, it should be an Arkansas, Mississippi State, So I don't know. It's going to be a rough year for Florida.
You got Lance Leopold. You got old boy from Utah. And I mean, there is a coach right now. He is not coaching right now. I can't believe he's not hired because he's such a good coach. Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen is a hell of a job.
Dan Mullen would be a fantastic hire, but he ain't going back to Florida. Why would he go back?
I wouldn't go back either. My God, that was the dumbest thing ever, firing him. I mean, the first 3 years he took you to the SEC championship, but this dude can't get you a winning. He has not had a winning season at Florida. I don't think Billy Napier has. I mean, let me read off his stats.
No, he hasn't. He went 6-6 his first season, 5-7 last year, and it surely is not looking good this year whatsoever. So, yeah, 100%. If I was a betting man, I would put my life savings on Billy Napier getting fired by the end of the season. It's just a matter of not if, but when for Billy Napier. But let's move on a little bit here. I don't know how much of this game you saw, but is Boise State maybe the favorite for the group of 5 in the
No.
playoffs? No.
They struggled with the Southern. That right now, Andy Staples is doing a bracketology. Right now, his bracketology on On3 Sports, the running Rebels of UNLV is who he
Really?
had. Boise State fumbled the back. You struggled big time with Georgia Southern. If you remember, they were about to lose that game.
Statesboro's a tough place to place now. Tough place to play. Gotta. Come on now. All right, let's talk. Let's move to the. Okay, finish your thought.
You predicted what Auburn would do. You got to talk a little bit about Auburn.
We'll get to Auburn and Alabama here at the end. Let's run through a couple of these surprise games. I think another team, not quite as in the boat of Florida, but another team that it's almost a matter of not if but when. Shane Beamer's got to go at South Carolina. To have Old Dominion come within 4 points of you and lead the game for a lot of it says a lot. 23-19, South Carolina over Old Dominion.
Yeah, that's it's bad.
Not good whatsoever. Mississippi State, high-flying offense over legendary Eastern Kentucky. This is these week 1 games. There's not too much to talk about. Let's move on. Nevada takes down your Troy Trojans, 28-26.
Yeah.
On the West Coast, this was a game nobody saw coming. The Oregon Ducks coming out flat against Idaho, the Idaho Vandals.
Maybe we hyped up Oregon too much. Maybe we hyped them up a little bit too much.
I think Oregon's going to get it together. I thought they just came out flat to start the season. Just poor performance overall. Idaho had some trick plays up their sleeves. Dylan Gabriel still put up some good numbers.
I don't think the score kind of reflects it as closer than it necessarily was.
Yeah, exactly. A game that was close until pretty much the last whistle, the last kick. We watched the tail end of this game. Notre Dame and Texas A&M, one of the bigger games for the SEC in the non-conference. Notre Dame comes up short against Marcus Freeman, who gets a big win against the Aggies.
Probably his biggest win in his career at Notre Dame.
I would say so. I would say so.
I mean, we said if he can get past this game, Notre Dame's in the playoffs. That they control their own destiny now. They just have to win out.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at their schedule. So going forward, you got Northern Illinois next week, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army in the battle against USC to end the year. I think USC could be a tough game. That's at USC.
USC, Georgia Tech, Florida State. That's the only
Those are your toughest games. And right now, I would say Notre Dame will probably be favored in all of them. Because let's be real, Texas A&M, as perennially 7-5, 8-4 as they are through the past, really the entirety of their program, Kyle Field is still a very, very tough place to play. I mean, they gave Alabama a really, really close game last season. It came down to the very end. This game was at night. So to go in week 1 in a very big hyped up game and win against a Mike Elko team who is the former head coach of your quarterback, I think that's a pretty good win, 100%.
It was a big win. Big win. You go in there. I mean, game that everybody thought. I mean, the only one that picked Notre Dame was Lee Corso.
He got all his games right.
Yes, on Saturday, yeah. I don't know. I don't remember who he picked for USC, LSU, but every game he picked on Saturday, he got right. But major win for Notre Dame. Major win. I just can't remember the last time Notre Dame's had a win this big. I know it's a 20th ranked team, but still, I just can't remember. Maybe when they beat Louisville. No, they lost to Louisville last year. But
they don't play in a conference. They don't play a conference championship game. So a lot of their regular season schedule, they usually have 1 or 2 losses, and it's usually those big non-conference games. Like remember when Georgia came to town a few years ago. Clemson, I believe, played Notre Dame not too long ago.
Yeah, they did. It's when Trevor Lawrence was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is going on with Michigan? 30-10 over Fresno State. I mean, that's a good win, but they don't start Alex Orji, who we thought was going to be the quarterback.
Documentary. Everyone's cheating against us. That's why we suck. So we just had to do it to even the odds.
I mean, Connor Stallions is the best thing to happen to Michigan in decades, if we're being honest.
What's the signal, man?
That means
Michigan sucks.
I mean, you got to admit it. Like the time that he's there, Michigan it has the best few seasons
ever
in decades. Then he leaves, Harbaugh leaves, and here we are winning over.
One would almost argue in Michigan history, long historical history.
Possibly, yeah.
And now they're back to mediocrity. Just
saying. Don't need to dwell on that too much. I didn't even really watch any of that game. Let's move on. Louisiana, 40-10 over Grambling. I thought that was a good. I'm just kidding. Week 1.
Let's talk about the game last night.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Then we'll get into the Bama Auburn game. LSU USC. No offense was in that game. You're going to lose that game 90% of the time, 99.9% of the time, when you give up 100 yards in penalties. If you're LSU, you're going to do that. Just going to be honest with you. You got to play smart. You kind of shot yourself in the foot a lot. You get in the red zone, no offense whatsoever. You could drive it down their throat, but when you get within 10 yards of the red zone, you're done.
Yeah, LSU shot themselves in the foot a lot last night, and USC took advantage of it. Miller Moss looked like a stud last night. He did not have really many bad throws whatsoever. I do think that the LSU defense has taken a step up, but man, under Garrett Nussmeier, that offense, that historically good offense from last season, has taken quite a step down.
Well, let me tell you, I think what we've always said, how good can Lincoln Riley be if he has a defense? He's got a defense.
He does. I don't want to say it's a fantastic defense, but it's good enough to make a stop every now and then. If you can get a few stops, a few big stops, this offense, this Lincoln Riley offense, I mean, this could be a very dangerous USC team.
So that's always been the thing with Lincoln Riley. Never been offense.
I was listening to it on the next round today. He gets just 1 or 2 stops against Georgia in the Rose Bowl years ago. They go to the national championship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think about it. Probably some of the 2 best offensive minds in college football is Lane Kiffin and Lincoln Riley. We know Lincoln Riley probably the best when it comes to
certainly the best, especially with developing quarterbacks.
His last 4 quarterbacks between schools, between Oklahoma and USC, 3 of them were Heisman winners, and then the 4th one, Jalen Hurts, was a Heisman finalist, finished second against Joe Burrow.
And is now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? I mean, and he only played for you for 1 year.
Yes, I'm telling you, it is insane. But we've always said if he gets a defense, if he ever gets a defense, you cannot say Lincoln Riley without saying defense. I mean, he has no defense. I'm telling you, I think he's got it now. And I'm telling you, this might be a playoff team right here.
I would go ahead and put him as a playoff team. I mean, USC, I can't get their schedule pulled up right now, but if you can get it, here we go. I can get their schedule right now. Let's go forward. Next week, Utah State. Then you got Michigan on the road in Michigan. If Lincoln Riley gets a big win at the Big House, come on.
Give me next week. I want to see how Texas does against Michigan.
Good point. Good call. You got Wisconsin. You got Minnesota. You got Penn State. That's going to be really tough, but you got that game at home. You got Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, and Notre Dame. It's a pretty tough schedule for year 1 of the Big Ten. But if they can maybe go 9-3, they may be on the cusp of a playoff, 100%. And DeAnton Lynn, that's a great defensive mind. You are right. I think that this could be a dangerous team, even with the step down at quarterback. And Miller Moss still looked really good. But even losing Caleb Williams, and just to your point, if you have a defense with that style of offense, I don't care who you're going up against, it's going to be a game.
No, it is. I feel really good about USC. USC's not really in the past, especially against SEC teams. They have not done well. I'm telling you, I think things are changing at USC. I think now you are about to see the program take off.
If things truly change and you start to see fans come back into that stadium, because for the past, 15 years now, really ever since Pete Carroll left, they can't fill that stadium up. If they can start filling that stadium back up again and making the Coliseum one of the hardest places to play again in college football like it used to be in the Pete Carroll days, and you start recruiting that Southern California area again with all those stars and Mater Dei High School and all that Alabama's been taken for the past 6 years, USC might be a force to be reckoned with again.
They set a record last night with 63,000 people at the stadium. So there was more at, I think, this game than the last Super Bowl.
Wow. That doesn't surprise. I mean, college football. I mean, people are more passionate about college football than NFL. Let's just be real.
I'm more shocked that there were seats available for the Super Bowl. To be honest,
yeah.
That's what kind of shocks me. Is not that we broke the. I just thought there would, there's no seats available.
So USC gets the big win. As far as LSU, this could be. You and I are both not very high on LSU, but we thought that they would win this game. At the very least, this could be a
long season.
I tell you what, Brian Kelly made a.
We are high on LSU, but we're not high on Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, Brian Kelly shot himself in the foot having such a good year one. When you beat Alabama at home, then the next year you're expected to do the same thing. You're supposed to be better next year. They go 9-3. Hey, Jaden Daniels has a historic season, wins that Heisman, but then now you're going into year 3. And things ain't looking good so far. LSU now has lost 5. Their past 5 season openers. They've played some good teams like Florida State and a USC, but you can't lose 5 season openers in a row. They in an expanded playoff. Hey, they could get things together. They could get things rolling and have a good run in the SEC. But I mean, you got a tough SEC schedule here. You got to play. Do they play Texas or Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
I think they play Oklahoma. But even still, this is going to be tough for LSU. This could be one of those kind of down years for them. But it's week 1. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's talk about home state teams. Let's first talk about Auburn because you got a not-so-hot take.
Auburn did exactly what we said they were going to do. They're going to throw the bar, air raid. Let's beat the crap out of Alabama A&M. I've never seen this before, but Alabama A&M basically threw the white flag and said, "Hey, let's just do 10-minute quarters. Let's just get this."
Yeah, new rule in college football this year where you can kind of do an agreed-upon shortened quarter, essentially.
Beat them. I don't even remember the score. They put 70 up on them though. And Peyton Thorne threw over 300 yards. Now Auburn fans are back. I'm just telling you, you got California this week. Let's see how it goes. You got that.
I do think you beat California, but it's definitely going to be tougher than Alabama A&M for sure.
I don't expect 40 on the board against California.
I do think that Auburn is going to be better. We've talked about this. We think that Auburn's going to be like an 8-4, 9-3 team. We predicted them as like 9-3 at the ceiling, I think. And Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson, you got some really good wide receivers. They're going to be good. I mean, especially under a Hugh Freeze offense, who we think is actually going to be good this year. They were not that good last year. But this game was a game to make Peyton Thorne look a lot better than he really is. He threw for 300-something yards, I believe. It's Alabama A&M. It's Alabama A&M. Let's hold the horses.
They're FCS, to be honest. I think they just became an FCS.
Yeah, they're HBCU, so they're SWAC, so they're way down there. This was going to be you're supposed to beat Alabama A&M 70-something to nothing or whatever it was. So let's hold the horses a little bit. Let's get a better offensive team in here and see how the defense does, and a better defensive team. So Cal is going to be a good test for them. I think it's going to be a win, but better test.
It's at home, so I'm actually that's one of the games I do want to watch next week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's the 2:30 slot. That's going to be my 2:30 game because 11 o'clock is Michigan, Texas. My 2:30 slot's going to be Auburn, California. Then 6, of course, is going to be Bama, USF. But now, speaking of Bama, let's get into Alabama, the last game of the day we're going to talk about. We were there at the stadium, saw a bunch of people there, Nate Oates, Herb Jones, Latrell Wrightsell, a bunch of basketball players.
Don't forget Roll Tide Willie and Nacho.
Yes, saw Willie, drunk ass on Nacho. You saw Tyrone Prothro, Wallace Gilbert. It was a full
star-studded.
Yes, and started off a little wet, a little rainy. Socks got soaked, shirts got soaked, had some on wet bleachers. But you know what? By time kickoff, it was perfect weather. Could not ask for any kind of better for football weather, and it was an utter dominance. Like we expected it to be. With Western Kentucky beat them. What was it? 63-0.
63-0.
TJ Finley was talking a lot of shit, taken out before halftime. This is not Western Kentucky of old. This is not Alabama of old. This is a new Western Kentucky. This is a new Alabama.
I don't care who the head coach is. Have teams not, and USF is doing this right now. Have teams not learned to not shit talk Alabama before playing them? I don't care if it's Nick Saban or Kalen DeBoer. Come on. You shouldn't talk shit in general prior to a game unless you know you're going to win. But come on. Alabama, of all teams, knew that was going to end up being what happened against TJ Finley. He could not throw the ball. And this is a Western Kentucky team. This is one of the top tier group of 5 programs I would consider who usually passes the ball very, very well. Bailey Zappi is has thrown for the most yards in college football history.
Zappi, you had Austin Reed.
So, I mean, you and I said it. Don't be surprised if Western Kentucky goes up like 7-0 or scores even 3 touchdowns in this game. Kane Womack and that Swarm D came to play. And a certain someone, Keon Sabb, certainly came to play. Quay Russaw came to play, flying all over the field. We knew the offense was going to be high flying. I didn't think the defense would look that good, and I know it's Western Kentucky. But they did very well, aside from one drive where they kind of ran it down like 90 yards or whatever. It took them like 10 minutes.
They really should have. I would have went for a field goal, just put some points on the board.
But I mean, 63-0. It was a good showing by Alabama. Good show by Jalen Milroe. Only 9 pass attempts, but I mean, a bunch of them were 2 of them were to the Deuce, and his name is Ryan Williams. He is here. He is the next great Alabama wide receiver. He's the next Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley.
No, he's the next Julio. He is the next Julio.
Yeah.
I think Julio was Saban's first big star. Now Ryan Williams is Kellen DeBoer's first big star. Like it is Kellen passing of the torch right there. And that touchdown he had, the second touchdown, he broke that tackle basically. Oh my God.
The thing about this game is it really didn't answer too many of our questions. It kind of answered some, but it didn't answer very much of them because you just did exactly what you were supposed to do against a Western Kentucky. You're supposed to beat them 63-0, right? I will say, though, the defense looked better than we thought, and the offense is so much more explosive at the very least than last season under Tommy Rees. I mean, Justice Haynes, Jam Miller explode out of the backfield. The receivers get open in space and catch the ball and run after the catch. Saw that from Kendrick Law. I think Kendrick Law, you talked about him. I think going to have a huge year this year. I think Kobe Prentice, actually, I thought Kobe Prentice didn't start the game. He kind of came in some trash time there in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. He actually did start the game and had the second most receiving yards. Much of that did come later in the game, though, but he did start the game. So Kobe may still be first team. Who knows? But I think the story of the game certainly was Ryan Williams in the defense.
He swept it away with not only that, but like how old he is.
17 years old.
He was born in 2007.
Won't be 18 years old until after this season.
Alive during the Nick Saban press conference when he came to Bama.
Isn't that that's insane? Insane. Makes me feel old as dirt, and I'm 26.
Yes.
So, but hey, we've got a lot to talk about on our next episode when we do some previews and predictions for these upcoming games. And we'll talk a little bit of NFL because NFL Sundays are returning.
Let me give you a quick prediction. We got Thursday. Football starts Thursday, NFL. We got the AFC rematch, the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Give me who you got real fast.
Where is this game?
Let me look. I want to say it's in Kansas City.
I think either way, we're going to have a Chiefs win. But don't be sure. Yeah, give me the Chiefs just in that case. But what better matchup can you have to start the season on a Thursday night?
You got them on Thursday, and then you also got on Friday. I forgot Friday because they're playing in I think Brazil. The Packers and the Eagles. Who you got for that
game?
Give
me the Eagles. Give me Philly in that matchup.
Give me Green Bay.
Okay. All right.
Jordan Love. Give me Jordan Love. So we're not agreeing on nothing. We are separate on both of our NFL picks. But we'll talk about NFL next week. But I think that's done it. Episode 50. We've had a lot of good memories, man, on this podcast so far.
It's been great. 50 strong. 50 strong and 218 subscribers strong.
Thank you to all the subscribers, everybody that's shared, liked, and commented on everything we've done, subscribed, and people that reposted it. Thank you, Sam, Sweaty Boy, for doing all you do technical-wise. I really appreciate it. And, yes.
Hit him with it.
You stay classy.
Stay classy. Episode 51 coming Thursday. Bye.